Facing the Elite with Sean Kunkel and Calvin Alexander.
All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Facing the Elite podcast.
What's going on, guys?
We've been gone for a couple weeks here. Yeah, we've been gone for a couple weeks.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Definitely been a while.
But we're back with a new kind of video format. We're still testing stuff out. So obviously there's going to be probably a couple quirks here and there. But we'll get there. So we've been gone for a couple weeks, meaning we kind of missed out on talking about some pretty important stuff that happened. Mainly the playoffs and all the fun stuff that happened there. I think we might have talked a little bit before about stuff before the divisional round. So do you want to talk about the divisional round a little bit?
So basically in a nutshell, Green Bay didn't make it, New England didn't make it, so that left, the Dolphins against the Bills. That was a completely, in wild card week, complete, utter demise, whatever. But the divisional round was good. I think the divisional round was definitely, a lot better than I was giving it credit for. However, the Bengals completely slaughtered the Bills. That was probably the only issue. I'm only saying that only because at the fact that, the Bills went into, the divisional round, being top three, one of the best teams, but then the Bengals proved that, they're a lot better than, Josh Allen in Buffalo. Defensively, Cincinnati played very well. Offensively, they were clicking from the beginning, snap. They started the drive and ended the drive with a Jamar Chase touchdown. So that was fantastic. I mean, it's a good day when I see any team, bump the Bills out of the playoffs. I think that's fantastic. Over on the NFC side, not too much to talk about. You got the Eagles against the Giants at one point. They completely blew them out of the water. A lot of blowouts this year compared to what it was last year. Last year we had a bomb of a divisional round. This year it was more of the best team played the worst teams, and they proved why they're the best teams.
Yeah. I mean, well, for you, if you like the Bills getting bounced out of the playoffs, you've been happy the past couple of years, huh?
Hey, man. I mean, going into next year, we're going to hear again that, the Bills are Super Bowl favorites. Josh Allen is MVP favorite, Bills top 10 defense, top 5 offense, blah, blah, blah. We're going to hear it for the rest of our lives. As long as they get bumped out of the playoffs, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, well, that again set up the championship matchups, right? So you had the 49ers and the Eagles and the Bengals and the Chiefs. The 49ers and the Eagles game, I mean, that took a turn we predicted it was going to be the best game.
My heart goes out for the 49ers, I mean, kudos to the Eagles, they kept the foot on the gas from, opening snap to, end of the game. They did a phenomenal job. My heart really breaks for the 49ers because we were robbed of a good game. We were definitely robbed of one of the best championships games we've seen in a very long time. Brock Purdy going out, and then Johnson comes in. He goes out in the third quarter with concussion. Purdy comes back in. He can't throw the ball with a fractured thumb. So they're just, dumping the ball to, Christian McCaffrey, trying to run down their throats. What I do want to mention, though, isn't it weird that they didn't do more of a wildcat type of offensive scheme just to get the ball moving, or putting the ball in CMC's hands was definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, they did kind of for one play. They gave the ball to McCaffrey to throw, and then after that, I think was when Purdy came back in, and obviously he couldn't do anything. But I mean, I feel like at that point you're down 31-7. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? It's not like you're gonna come back. Yeah, so I feel like at the end of the day, I mean, the 49ers just had, one of the worst QB injury luck that I've seen in a long time. But, I mean, hey, good for the Eagles. I mean, it kind of, I think, obviously they had one of the easiest probably slates for getting into the Super Bowl that we've seen in a while.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, man, I mean, and then on the other side, you have the Bengals and the Chiefs, who, I mean, that game was crazy and kind of came down to similarly how the one from last year came down to right at the end.
Down to the wire.
Yeah. Some sad people on the Bengals sideline, I'll tell you that much.
The only thing I could take out from Obviously a really good matchup between Kansas City and Cincinnati, and on Sunday was number 57. What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, that was the most boneheaded thing I've seen all, in my years of watching football. You have them, I believe it was a 3rd and 10 or
Mhm.
something. Patrick Mahomes scrambles out and makes it to the sideline, and then I don't even remember his name. Number 57 just comes in. Patrick Mahomes is about 6 yards out of the out of bounds already. Goes in, hits him, unnecessary roughness, another 15 yards, seals up the game for Kansas City. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, man? Defensively, they play very well all game. Offensively, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, they did what they had to do, but you can't do that in a championship game, man.
Yeah.
Obviously next year is going to be completely probably the same thing because Cincinnati is a very good team. They're a top 3 team in my opinion, and they're always finding a way to win. And Zach Taylor is a really good head coach, so they're going to make it again next year. It's just can't be that sloppy. Can't be that sloppy.
Yeah. No, the penalties in both of these games were pretty incredible. Obviously, you had some. There were some other crazy plays that happened in that Chiefs Bengals game, right? You had the redo of 3rd down,
Yep.
which was unbelievable. And I remember correctly that in last year's game there was also a phantom whistle blown that nullified a
Yep.
touchdown. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, it's kind of like the Bengal, and again, those are just kinds of things. I mean, if you watch some of those Chiefs plays, just kind of blatant holding calls that were missed, whatever. But yeah, on both the 49ers and the Bengals, just some really weird defensive penalties that you don't see from those teams, especially the 49ers, who
Right.
obviously have been playing nasty defensive football the whole year. Um, but yeah, I mean, which again, that sets up the Chiefs and the Eagles as our 2 teams here.
2 number
Um,
1 seeds, man. 2 of the best teams in the NFL going against each other, and Arizona for the Lombardi. Come on, man. You can't write a better script.
yeah,
It's gonna be probably one of the best Super Bowls you've seen in a long time. You got 2 very young generational quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes and obviously Jalen Hurts, 2 top tier defenses. Offenses are explosive. The only thing is the Chiefs' offensive, weapons are kind of banged up. The weapons are definitely going to hurt them if they don't have, Miko Hardman, MVS out there, Juju out there. Travis Kelsey can't do it by himself, but we're
yeah,
still we're still in routine to have one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time.
yeah. I mean, I think it also comes down to, is Patrick Mahomes going to be good enough? Because I mean, again,
Yeah.
the news came out that he avoided setback after playing, the Bengals. But I feel like, I mean, first of all, he got smacked when on that
Yeah.
penalty play at the end of the game. But that Eagles defensive line, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't think that the Chiefs are going to be able to stand up. And one wrong hit, I mean, we saw with Purdy. I mean, he got a chop block on his arm and it
Yeah.
tears his, whatever, and now he can't play. What happens if Patrick Mahomes goes down early in that game? Do you think that there's a chance they win? Because I don't.
No. No, there's if so the best way I can explain this is, the Super Bowl against, Tampa and Kansas City. The one thing Tampa Bay did very well was, keeping Patrick Mahomes antsy, keeping him, with no time in the pocket to throw, getting him, scrambling out of the pocket because the pass rush was so good. That's something the Eagles have been doing, tremendously for 17 games throughout the regular season. They're best pass rush, best front seven, good secondary. So it's going to come down to, can the Eagles keep Patrick Mahomes from throwing the 50-yard bombs? Can he, the constant checkdowns? But if Patrick Mahomes, if he's not 100% and he's putting his body on the line and something terribly goes happen, God forbid, obviously, it's probably just going to be another, steamroll by Philadelphia.
Yeah. I don't know, because I feel like there comes a point where, like, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but the Chiefs, we've always looked at them as, obviously this year you lose Tyreek Hill, whatever. Patrick Mahomes has one of his best seasons. They do perfectly fine. They're going to the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. But would you say the Eagles, on paper and from what we've seen on the field so far, that the Eagles, I mean, they seem way better than the Chiefs are, just in total,
Hmm.
even though both teams are pretty much locked. And I really don't think that Kansas City, like, if you look at the explosiveness of the Eagles offense versus the opponents that the Chiefs have had to face, even in these playoffs, I mean, you got the run game, the passing game, you got Jalen Hurts being able to break the pocket and doing stuff like that. I just don't think Kansas City is going to be able to do anything defensively. And I think that Eagles defensive line is literally just going to make it impossible for Patrick Mahomes to do what he does.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. The only thing that has to go right for Kansas City defensively is, that secondary got to step up against, Devonta Smith and AJ Brown, who's had a completely amazing year. You know what I mean? He's probably had one of the best years of his career coming from Tennessee now into a new scheme, different coaching, different offensive, different plays. And he's completely blown it out. I believe he has like over 1,500 yards on the year, few touchdowns, which is, monumental. The only thing the Chiefs have to do that's going to make it better for them is Chris Jones, and him being one of the best nose tackles in the NFL. He's gotta contain Jalen. George Karlaftis, this first round pick from Kansas City, they gotta make it known. That front seven got to contain Jalen. Secondary's got to keep up with one of the best wide receiver tandems in the NFL. And Dallas Goedert is playing good football too. So safety's definitely got to make sure. Linebackers got to, they got to clamp up. It's going to have to come down to the defense for Kansas City. We already know that, the offense, is very explosive. They can throw the 50-yard bombs. They can, Isaiah Pacheco's been playing really good football in the second half of the season. It has to come down to how well that defense plays against this high-powered offense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just don't know. Like, I am I going to say that it's going to be a blowout type of game? I hope not. But I really do believe
blowout. I think it's going to come
Yeah.
down to at least a field goal. I know. Whoever wins on the 12th, I think it's going to come down to a game winning field goal.
You think that Kansas City can keep up with the Eagles?
I think so, because I think Andy Reid is a really good coach. I mean, kudos to Nick Sirianni. He's definitely surprised a lot of us this year. But you can't count out Andy Reid, and you definitely can't count out Patrick Mahomes. He's one of those quarterbacks that, if he sees a defense, he's going to change the play on a drop of a dime. You know what I mean? If he sees that, that front seven, looking that they're about to crash the pocket, he's going to make something happen. We already know what happens when you blitz Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll definitely be exciting. And I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy that it's the Eagles and the Chiefs because that there's going to be some crazy stuff as usual with both of those teams. Obviously, we got, the Jason and Travis, the Kelsey Bowl as well, being the first brothers to play in the Super Bowl against each other. Or even, that's I think, awesome, not. Man. Yeah, it's it's definitely going to be a fun time to see what both of these teams can bring. Now, I just have a question regarding the playoffs and all this stuff. At what point? So, me being a Packers fan, I've had to deal with for years and years, and I think all Packers fans have gone through this, where Aaron Rodgers, the Packers, they can never reach the Super Bowl, they can never get past the championship game. At what point do you put the Bills in that category? Because this is now 3 years in a row that the Bills have done this. At what point, do the Bills, now we said this with the Von Miller signing this year, all these kinds of things, that if they didn't make it to the Super Bowl this year, okay, now what are you going to do? How do they get to the Super Bowl when they legitimately, every time they get down to the divisional round or to the, the championship game, they can't get it done? And they look so bad. It's not like they just have a couple, bad plays. They look completely different from how they look during the season.
I think, we talked about this, maybe a week and a half ago. They got to go out and they got to attack free agency. They have to attack the offseason very heavy. You know what I mean? You got to get it back, with Devin Singletary and James Cook back there and not putting up numbers that, that can help out an offense where Josh Allen is your leading rusher. Terrible. I think you call up Arizona. You try to finalize some deal with, DeAndre Hopkins so you can get Stephon Diggs some help. Defensively, injuries. That's the only thing that really hurts the defense. Defense always plays very well, but it comes down, if you lose that one key anchor, and in this situation like Von Miller, where, it hurts your defense, that's the only thing that really hurt the Bills defensively is, just injuries. If Von Miller was playing in, against Cincinnati, I feel like it would have been a different ball game because Gregory Rousseau can't all do it by himself. You can't create pass rush off of one player, but if you had Von Miller out there, probably could have definitely got a different outcome. But offensively, you got to make tweaks. You got to make tweaks, and at this rate, you're wasting talent. You're wasting, good key and vital players, and Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, who, in my opinion, will probably not touch Super Bowl if they don't figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean we've seen, Stephon Diggs has taken every one of these losses really
Very
hard,
hard.
right?
Yeah.
And kind of, I feel like at a certain point you start to, you're a team that wins all the time. You get to these big games, but to just kind of have completely non-existent performances once you get there, it doesn't matter what you did during the season. It doesn't matter that you were the number 2 seed, whatever. It does, it just doesn't make a difference. So I agree with you. I to be completely honest, I can't think of any one person or change that they could do that would stop this, because I feel like it's a combination. I mean, obviously you can put a lot of blame on Josh Allen, right? Which I feel like a lot of people have done.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's just something where you got it. Like the mentality has to change.
I think, I would put blame on Josh Allen second half of the season. First half of the season, he was playing like an MVP. Through 8 weeks, I was like, you know what? Josh Allen's finally going to do it. He's finally going to win that MVP for the year, take one back home for Buffalo. Second half of the season, the picks were bad. The turnovers were terrible, bad reads. He's lost a lot of games with, end zone picks. The blame is definitely on Josh Allen in, half of the season. In the playoffs, defense really messed it up for them. And again, it goes back to injuries. You didn't have a healthy Bills defense out there against Cincinnati. Um, so, it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
defensively against the Dolphins and the wild card, they played a lot better, but can't go far if that injury bug keeps hitting you. I mean, that's inevitable. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You can't prevent an injury, but I feel like when one goes out, next man up, and that's where they're lacking, is that next man up. You know what I mean? Von Miller goes out. All right, now you have to figure out, is Matt Milano going to do pass rush, or is he going to stay in the back, pass coverage? You have to figure out some scheme that you can prepare yourself for this, and they came short. And not only did they come short, they lost pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
if Buffalo played Kansas City, how do you think that would have went in the AFC Championship?
I feel like it would have been I feel like it would have been a closer game. I don't like it. It's weird because it's like when Buffalo and Kansas City, and that's the funny thing, and it's something that I is seeing these playoff games this year from the Bengals again. The Bengals defense uh, is just so good at making like really custom game plans for teams like this and being super successful while doing it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. But I mean, obviously, we know what happened with the Bills and the Chiefs last year, and kind of the outcome of that game and how crazy it was. So I feel like it would have been different. I feel like had
right.
they gone against each other, you would have had a high scoring game. And it probably would have been that. That's why I don't know if it's more the Bengals are just like the one team that can stop all these other teams, or if it's just that the Bills just, I don't know, they just crack in these
Yeah,
games.
I don't know, but we're definitely we're in for, again, a very very strong Super Bowl. Two high powered offenses, two great defenses. Two good head coaches. I think we're gonna have a very amazing Super Bowl. Come February 12th.
Yeah. All right. With that, let's go into awards.
There you
Um,
go.
so let's start out with the MVP award. A lot of candidates in here. One that's not a quarterback, obviously. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Jefferson. Now, I would take Josh Allen off this list. I would
Yeah.
Joe Burrow. Like I don't see that as an MVP caliber performance.
hmm
Um, and then Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, we've made the arguments before for both of these guys. Which one is it? Patrick Mahomes obviously statistically had the better season out of the two of them. Um, but Jalen Hurts, I mean, when you think about the MVP, and we have this conversation every single year, when you think of the MVP award, do you think more statistically, or do you think more in terms of actually being the most valuable player on your team?
I think statistics. I think it comes down to how well that player played. Um, being the most valuable player on your team, I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand. You know what I mean? If you're putting a bomb bombshells of stats, you're already deserving of the MVP award.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
all
mean,
3 of these guys made their team a lot better.
yeah,
Without them, it'll be different. It'll be different. We saw that with Jalen Hurts when he went out for those 2 games and Gardner Minshew came in. It hurt them. With Patrick Mahomes not being there, that can hurt them too. If Justin Jefferson is not on the field, there's no way the offense is going out there on the field.
right.
That's not a hot take. That's the truth. If Justin Jefferson is not lacing up those cleats, offense they implode.
Now, I saw you tweet about this, I think, a little bit ago, but did you say that you believe that Jefferson should win the MVP award?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100. It's crazy only because when have we seen the last time a non-quarterback, even be nominated? You know what I mean? Last time, 2012 when Adrian Peterson won it, and non-quarterback. The only thing that sucks about the MVP award, it's just too quarterback based. You know what I mean? Justin Jefferson had one of the best years of a wide receiver in a very long time. He beat Randy Moss's, all-time leading, in a season for a Viking. That by itself should already, you're putting up numbers bigger than one of the best wide receivers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Justin Jefferson should have 100% won this award. Kudos to obviously how Jalen Hurts played, and how Patrick Mahomes plays every year, but Justin Jefferson got robbed, man.
I mean, so just out of the sake of saying, does this mean that, because Cooper Kupp didn't win it last year?
Which is crazy to me.
Right.
So crazy to me.
Yeah, and that's why it's like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like as a receiver or a running back or any of these guys, you need to have, well, actually, no, because Cooper Kupp did have like the best performance you could have out of a wide receiver in
Exactly.
So I don't know. I feel like if there was a year where it was a down year for quarterbacks, like if you didn't have anybody that, threw near 50 touchdowns and a bunch of stuff like that, I feel like you could do this if you had a receiver that got to this point. But again, I mean, I think everybody at this point assumes that Mahomes will be winning that award.
Yeah. But if you think about it like this, right, like to go back to what you just said about if the quarterbacks had a down year, say if, quarterbacks had a down year, like you said, Justin Jefferson had one of the best years of, as a wide receiver. You think they still give it to Kirk Cousins because he's the one throwing the ball?
No, I don't think so. Tough. Yeah, I mean, but I don't think so just because, like, Patrick Mahomes had a great season, was tossing touchdowns left and right, or even any of these other guys, Tyreek Hill, any of these other crazy receivers this year, their names, their names never come up, right? They don't know, you don't see their names ever on these MVP lists. You barely ever see them on the Offensive Player of the Year nominations. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if you had a player that had a crazy performance as a wide receiver and nobody else that you could really firmly say is your MVP, that is really the only way that I could do it. I mean, even I guess it's proven by the fact that Adrian Peterson is the last guy who won it. And what was that? More than a decade ago.
Over a decade ago.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think you have to have a performance that is so absolutely ridiculous that there's nothing.
I agree.
So I don't know. It would be fun, but the MVP award I feel like is kind of worthless anyway. I mean, I feel like it just goes to the quarterback who has the greatest stats or Aaron Rodgers.
Now, do you think I hate you? Now, do you think obviously, Patrick Mahomes is a clear-cut winner. You know what I mean? He's definitely going to win the MVP award. You think the curse is going to be broken in Super Bowl?
The MVP winner not winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Last time it happened was 1999. Kurt Warner, not Kirk Cousins.
I mean, no, I don't think it's going to be broken because I don't think that the Chiefs are going to win.
Yeah.
I don't. It could happen. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes, right? So it could definitely happen, but no, I think the curse is going to keep running.
I agree with you 100%.
Alrighty, let's go into the Defensive Player of the Year. So 3 options that we have here. We got Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, and Micah Parsons. Cool to see Chris Jones' name on this list. Obviously, I mean, he had one heck of a season. Micah Parsons, fun to see him here, only in his second year on this list again. I believe that the majority of people think this is going to go to Bosa.
It's going to.
Yeah, and again, it stinks that the final defensive performance they had this year was so bad. But yeah, I mean, all three of these guys, I think you could make an argument for why they would deserve it. But Bosa did definitely have one heck of
He's
a
locked it
season.
in. Yeah.
Offensive player of the year. Now we have Tyreek Hill's name on here, which I like. When was the last time Tyreek Hill's name was on offensive player of the year nomination? Like, I don't remember seeing it when he was on the Chiefs. Yeah.
The year they went into the Super Bowl. Not against the Niners, not against the Buccaneers.
Yeah. Well, this award is interesting because, I mean, obviously, again, nominations, we have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, and Patrick Mahomes. Do you think that Patrick Mahomes takes both, or do you think this goes to someone else?
Justin When's the last time that happened? Yeah, when's the last time that happened? Peyton Manning? Or was it Tom Brady?
No, I think
both.
Wasn't it Cam Newton, too? Cam Newton won MVP and Offensive Player of the Year.
Right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about him. I think you got to give it to Tyreek. Tyreek had a 1,700 yards
over Jefferson.
I mean, I'm still locked in for Jefferson to win MVP. So,
but not Offensive Player of the Year.
I'd rather have Justin Jefferson win MVP than Offensive Player of the Year. I feel like that's like your that's like the way I look at the MVP and Offensive Player of the Year. All right, MVP, second loser. You know what I mean? Like, you're the first loser. Oh my God, I keep hitting my microphone. Jeez. But it's probably if you do not give Justin Jefferson MVP, you gotta at least give him the Offensive Player of the Year. Come on.
Yeah.
Dude had one of the best years in history.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that would be my pick. If they don't do the whole Patrick Mahomes double thing, I feel like Justin Jefferson is probably who I would go with that. Because
not a lot of running backs this year. It's just crazy.
No, yeah, I mean, besides, I think maybe Josh Jacobs
and
had a good Saquon, year. And then Christian McCaffrey at the end there. But yeah, we didn't really have a crazy year for running backs. But obviously there were a lot of crazy receivers this year too. So okay, rookies. Now the Offensive Rookie of the Year award got messed up when Brock Purdy came in and started for the 49ers because his name has been launched to the front of this list. So we got Brock Purdy, Kenneth Walker, and Garrett Wilson. Would you give it to Purdy? I mean, he did have quite the start.
I wouldn't give it to Purdy. No. I mean, yeah, granted, he came in, 7-0 as a starter. I think he had like 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, had a really good chance of winning it if he would have, became the starter week 1. But you can't oversee Kenneth Walker. You know what I mean? Kenneth Walker helped, besides obviously, Geno Smith. Kenneth Walker helped that offense. When Rashad Penny went out week 1, Kenneth Walker was the next man up, and he completely obliterated it. Now, Wilson, though, he had a lot of flashy catches. He did have a lot of games where, 100-plus yards, but it took a little bit for that to get going. Like the first 6 weeks, trust me, I would know. I had him on my fantasy.
Yeah, both of them on your fantasy.
I did. It took Garrett Wilson a little bit to get going. It really did. And I don't know if that was because of the whole Zach Wilson, situations, Joe Flacco, Mike White or whatever, who was throwing him the ball. But I wouldn't even put Garrett Wilson up there for Rookie of the Year. I wouldn't.
I mean, is it impressive, though, that he did what he did on an offense that was literally couldn't throw the ball? Like, I mean, you had all the quarterback switch outs. You had Zach Wilson bench this year. And the fact that he got 1,100 yards, I mean, wasn't that a record? Not a record breaker, but when's the last time the Jets had an 1,100-yard receiver? Brandon Marshall?
Probably.
I mean, it's
or
just
Corey Davis.
Yeah, I mean, their offense was so bad that I feel like to have a guy who did that, it's impressive just in that case.
Now, would you have put Chris Olave over Wilson?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, he's definitely a guy you could throw in the mix. I don't know. I mean, I like Garrett Wilson. I think that, like you said, he had a lot of flashy catches and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how he moves forward. Obviously, no one really knows what the Jets QB situation is going to be like. He might be
Right.
catching passes from Aaron Rodgers next year.
Dude, how would you
Mm-mm.
feel? How would that go? Like,
When you
if you
sent
get the
me,
notification on your phone and it says, "All right, breaking news: Aaron Rodgers will be a New York Jet in the 2023-2024 season." How would
I
you
mean,
feel?
it's going to be dependent on what the Packers get back. Because I'll follow Aaron Rodgers himself anywhere, right? But
Yeah,
as a Packers fan, I mean, we'll take Sauce Gardner, we'll take 3 firsts, we'll take sure. Um,
that
no,
would
I
be
don't want
so
to see him in a
stupid.
Jets. I don't want to see him in a Jets
That's
jersey
like if Tom Brady,
ever.
left the Patriots and went to the Jets.
Well, I
That would be.
mean, there was that tweet. There was that tweet where they said, "Where's Aaron Rodgers? What neighborhood is Aaron Rodgers moving to?" And Devontae Adams said, "Mine." So I'm going to stick on that one.
Did you see
Um,
that video of Aaron Rodgers golfing, and they were
yeah.
like the reporter asked him, "Hey, like where are you gonna end up next year? New York Jets or New York?" And he was like, "The first thing I'll tell you is I'm not going to San Francisco." I was like, "Wow." Because that
That'd
would be
be
such a
fun.
better move. That would be such a better move if Aaron Rodgers went to the Packers because you can win a Super Bowl
If
in
Aaron
San Fran.
Rodgers went to the Packers,
I mean, went to the Niners. If you went to the Niners, you can win a Super Bowl in San Fran. With that offense and that defense, it would be like when Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers. You had a good offense, good defense, and you won a Super Bowl year one.
yeah.
But then
No,
the
yeah.
Packers might get Trey Lance. So
I wouldn't be upset about that. I'll
just
take
stay
Brock Purdy
healthy.
too.
See, I rather
um,
I would take Purdy over Trey Lance. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I would
Only
do
because
that as well.
we wouldn't. I haven't seen anything Trey Lance, besides obviously college, but Brock Purdy came in as the last pick in the NFL draft and will potentially win offensive rookie of the year.
So okay, so now again, knowing that as well, the guy who's the last pick in the draft that no team throughout all of those picks had any interest in picking up, for him to go out and do what he did, does that give him a boost in offensive rookie of the year chances?
Oh, I mean, I feel like it has to. I mean, in my eyes, obviously, I don't want him to win it. I would love it to go to Kenneth Walker, but realistically. But then again, if you think about it, if Brock Purdy would have went to any other team, you think this would have happened? Like you went to a team that had Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle. Like you have a dominating offense, so of course you're going to put numbers in a defense that can make plays. So you're
Yeah. I mean, probably not. But then again, I mean, yeah, he just so happened to be on a team that also had a crazy defense.
yeah,
But I think it is important though to note, even like if you want to talk about a team like the Eagles, where Gardner Minshew came in, and in one of those games, the game against the Cowboys, yeah, everything looked pretty good. But that's also a team with a stacked offense and a stacked defense. And when they played the Saints, Gardner Minshew couldn't get anything going against them, even
right.
with that team around him. So no, I mean, I think that, and I think it's also fair to note that Brock Purdy defenses don't have film on him, didn't have film on him for the first couple games. You know, he's going to get figured out. And that's the part that I always look at as like, that's where you find out how good the quarterback actually is. Once defenses know how to defend against you, if you can keep doing good things. Now, obviously, and I guess maybe while we're on the topic here, what happens next year? Is it a Brock Purdy, Trey Lance battle for the starter? Are just Jimmy G gone? I mean, what do you think is
Yeah,
going to happen?
Jimmy G is definitely gone, 100%. And honestly, it's not really 100% because you can get a lot of trade capital for Trey Lance. You know what I mean? That's a first round pick. That's a good receiver, a good defensive, whatever. You can get something that's monumental to your team. You can't get much for Jimmy G. You know what I mean? You could get a six, but what are you gonna do with a six? You could get a seventh, well, whatever. That's just you're not building capital.
Mm-hmm.
So if you keep Jimmy G and Brock Purdy, and obviously Brock Purdy's your starter, because we already know that Jimmy G could come in and obviously win you games, but he can't win you games for that 7 games that Brock Purdy did. But you can
Mm-hmm.
also get rid of Trey Lance and do something with those picks. There's a lot of quarterback list teams out there that will be a lot better if they had Trey Lance.
Yeah. I mean, do you think team? So, well, what do you think you'd get for Trey Lance?
I think you get a
Pick?
first. You get a first round pick, of course, for Trey Lance.
You think so?
Hmm.
Even after that
Young,
injury?
yeah, young quarterback. Definitely has a lot of talent potential. You know, former first rounder, and what he went in like the third or
Hmm.
fourth pick or something like that. Yeah, you could get dude's young. Dude can be a franchise quarterback somewhere if he stays healthy. So yeah, I think you get a first round pick out of him because right now, what San Fran got the number 30 pick or number 29th, I believe it's the 30. Um, and then you could get another first round pick for Trey Lance.
So
Opportunities
what
are
do
endless.
you? So what do you think that teams would offer for Purdy right now?
Ooh,
Because realistically, we've seen Purdy play more than we've ever seen Trey Lance play, like you just said.
correct.
So do you think there's a team in the league that would offer a second? I mean, for a dude you drafted in the 7th round, a second even would be good returns if you don't think he's your guy going forward.
Yeah, but you gotta keep Brock only because you know what he can bring to the table. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like if a team comes knocking at San Fran's door, I'm like, all right, I can give you a second round pick and a conventional third round pick next year, whatever. You got to say no because Brock can win you games. He took you to the NFC Championship. I mean, yeah, him going out kind of hurt, but you got to keep Brock.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there is a good shot that he gets offensive player of the year or offensive player of the year. Yeah, offensive rookie of the year just because of what
That'd
he
be
did.
crazy.
Um that has to be what like that would be the first time ever then, right? Where the
Hmm.
Mr. Irrelevant wins an award at the end of the year.
I mean, the first game
uh,
him starting, he beat Tom Brady. You know what I mean? That's never happened in Tom Brady's career ever.
mhm.
And that basically lit a fire under the 49ers offense that they won 7 in a row. I mean, at that point, what they won 12 in a row, including the seven. So
Yeah.
it
Maybe
kind of
that
helped
maybe
that your team was one of the best teams in football.
maybe he is the next Tom Brady. We need
You
another
shut your
one.
mouth.
We need another one. All
You
right.
shut your mouth.
Let's keep rolling here. So we got defensive rookie of the year. It's Sauce Gardner. It's Sauce
Yeah.
Gardner. There's no, I don't,
If
not
ends up
Aiden
bust.
Hutchinson. Yeah.
Not Trayvon
um,
Walker, not Devin Lloyd, even though all four of those guys have definitely had impacts on defenses, but Sauce Gardner is the best corner in the NFL as
yeah.
a rookie.
I think that he has a bright future ahead of him. It's exciting to watch him play. I'm upset that he plays for the Jets. Um,
How do you
but
think
who
I
knows?
feel?
Maybe he'll be a Packer sooner than later. Hey, that'll help you out.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
then I got Aaron Rodgers to worry about 2 years, two games in a row. Yeah,
There
that
you
would
go.
definitely
That's
help
the key.
out.
All right. Comeback player of the year. We have Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, and Geno Smith. Geno Smith's name. I feel like you got to give it to Geno Smith
Got to
just for
give
the
it to
sake of
Gino.
it. I mean, this is the last year he's ever going to be eligible to win an award again, and the best year that he ever had. And I just feel like, I mean, jokes aside, what he was able to do with Seattle's offense and how far that team got on the doorstep of the playoffs with a team that we literally in the beginning of the season thought there's no way. I mean, there's no way this
Yeah,
team wins 2 games. He goes out there, lights it up. I think he was the most accurate quarterback in the league through the first
dude,
half.
he made that
So
Seahawks offense a lot better than people were giving them credit for. They made it to a playoff berth. You know what I
mhm,
mean? So
yeah. And then, I mean, if you look at the other guys, I mean, obviously Christian McCaffrey. Now, Christian McCaffrey had his resurgence later in the season, right? Because that was
mhm.
obviously, when he went to the 49ers. And Saquon did have a good year this year. Um, I mean, I would say, I wouldn't give it to Saquon. I mean, would you?
I mean, I would give it over Saquon than CMC, but like so the rankings for offensive. I mean, comeback player. I'll go Gino, Saquon, CMC.
I mean, is it impressive that McCaffrey was able to do what he did with a new team as quickly as
With a
he did?
yeah, with a good offensive line, yeah. I mean, honestly, I would give it to Saquon for comeback player of the year because the offensive line for the Giants, they played well, but they weren't the best offensive line. He made that Giants offense. If Saquon wasn't on the field, you're not winning.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that we said about the MVP. you are the best player on the team because you help your team obviously win games and catapults your offense or defense or whatever, position you play to new heights. That's what Saquon Barkley does. If he, like I said, if he wasn't on the field, there's no chance that the Giants are doing anything offensively, and we saw that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we said that exact thing, that as soon as he gets hurt, over. And
Yep.
that's exactly what happened. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think Saquon will probably come away with that reward.
Mhm.
And he did have a great season. Obviously, I believe Josh Jacobs was the only one who had more rushing yards than him in the season.
Yeah,
I'm
Josh
just
Jacobs
gonna
had a great year.
take a peek at that.
Fact check yourself. I think
Um,
Josh Jacobs had what, 1,600?
Yes, and Saquon had 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, definitely, and based off the fact that again he was the only guy on the Giants offense that could really do anything.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was the team. So, all right, let's move into the awards that I feel like people are very conflicted about, even though they're awards that I feel like you don't hear as much as the player ones, and that's the coaches, right? So
Mhm.
for Coach of the Year, we have Brian Dable with the Giants, Sean McDermott with the Bills, Doug Peterson with the Jaguars, Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers, and Nick Sirianni for the Eagles. I feel like you got to do this with Brian Dable. Like, I feel like he took the Giants from being absolute garbage to having a positive record and going into the playoffs with hopes of making it far. I just don't like Nick Sirianni. I don't know. Like, would you do Nick Sirianni or would you do
100%.
Brian Dable?
100%. Like,
Nick
kudos to Brian
Sirianni?
Dable. Yeah, kudos to Brian Dable and turning around a bad Giants team from last year and making them make the playoffs. Kudos to Doug Peterson for doing the same thing. This is the first time in a long time where the team with a number one pick made the playoffs the next year in a very long time. Kyle Shanahan, yeah, Kyle Shanahan is a good coach. I really don't have much to say about him.
Wait, are
Uh,
you about to say Nick Sirianni?
yeah, I am.
But wouldn't it have been like okay? I'm just gonna say because I don't agree with you. So
What? How do you not
no,
agree? He's
no,
the
no, no, no.
greatest coach.
Hold on though. If you
Okay.
at the beginning of the season, right? If you said, okay, but now what were our expectations for the Eagles at the start of the season? Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you sat down Nick Sirianni and Brian Dable and you said, okay, the goal of this year is that you need to make it as far as you can into the playoffs, who had like, if Nick Sirianni didn't make it to the Super Bowl, it would have been the worst. Like, how do you not? That's why it's like, I feel like based on performance, the Eagles were the greatest team in the league this year, but their roster was built to be the most dominant thing on the field. And if you couldn't take them to the Super Bowl, then what? Like, then you suck. You suck as a
Right.
coach.
I agree with what you're saying, but you have to think about statistically, you know what I mean? Nick Sirianni ran a very good defense where not one, not two, not three, but four players on that, a defensive line had 10 plus sacks. You went out there and you got James Bradbury, you got AJ Brown. You made your defense a lot better. You acquired AJ Brown in one of the stupidest drafts, trades I've seen in my life. You know, bozos to the Tennessee Titans for letting that happen. But you coached one of the best teams in the NFL. Now, don't get me wrong. I look at like Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills. He coached a really good team. You don't see his name on the list. And we were saying that the Bills were going to be Super Bowl bound too. I mean, I'm giving kudos to Brian Dable because he did coach a bad team from last year, and so did Doug Peterson. But Nick Sirianni had the best offense, the best defense, special teams, quarterbacks, whatever, MVP, this defensive player, this, whatever. It's definitely Nick Sirianni, and I
Sean
hate the
McDermott.
Eagles.
Sean McDermott is on the list.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
He is one of the nominees. But okay, fine. I'll give you that. But I'll ask you one question. Don't you think that Brian Dable earns or should earn this reward solely based off the fact that he made Daniel Jones look good?
Yes. Now if this award was, can you go out there and make a bad quarterback better? Yeah, Brian Dable is winning 100%. But we're
I
not talking
mean,
about that. We're talking about the team itself.
hey, both Nick Sirianni and Brian Dable made bad quarterbacks look better. That's why
Yeah,
I
but
got to say this.
Jalen
What?
was always better than Daniel Jones.
Yeah, but it
He's
is
been a bad 2
interesting.
years.
But it is interesting though because, and I think we talked about this last year, was and obviously now that Jalen Hurts, they're going to the Super Bowl, all these clips are resurfacing of how many people legitimately thought that Jalen Hurts was going to be a nobody in the league because he
Hmm.
couldn't pass the ball, because he couldn't do all this stuff. Um, so yeah, I mean, okay, well, that moves us into the assistant coach of the year, which we have Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator. We have D'Amico Ryans, the 49ers defensive coordinator, and Shane Steichen, the Eagles offensive coordinator. This one's hard
Yeah, it is
because I mean, the Lions offense was explosive, more
explosive.
explosive than we've ever seen. The 49ers defense was ridiculous, and the Eagles offense was unbelievable. So like who do you pick out of this list? I feel like I would pick D'Amico Ryans just for the sake of the fact that that 49ers defense was no, but actually maybe I'd pick the Lions offensive coordinator because I mean he turned that offense into a bulldozer. Like it was, I mean, it was unstoppable at times.
I mean, I would have to agree with you. Lions offense was definitely, at one point they were leading the league in, you know, points scored, which
Mm-hmm.
was no one would ever predicted that. But D'Amico, he led one of the best defenses this year. But then there's also been times where that defense got exposed. So I think I got to go Lions offensive coordinator here. I really do, because if you told me that the Lions offense was going to be good, I would have told you, maybe not. If you told me that the 49ers defense was going to be good, I'd be like, yeah, they're going to be one of the top tier defenses for a very long time. Not when it comes to the Lions offense. So I got to give it to I got to give it to the Lions offensive coordinator.
You know whose name being left off this list makes me upset? And his name is
Nathaniel Hackett.
escaping me. No, what? No. No, his name is escaping me right now, but the Bengals defensive coordinator.
Oh,
Because
wow.
doesn't start
Josiah
with an
something.
L. I
I
thought it
thought it was
started with an
Josiah
L.
something.
I
I don't
can't
know.
remember.
Let's fact check ourselves real quick.
Let's see here. Bengals defensive coordinator is Lou Anarumo.
Oh yeah. Lou.
That's who
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Wow, we were
I
just
feel
talking
like
about
it's
that.
I feel like it's ridiculous his name's not on the list because in terms of, we think about D'Amico Ryans, the 49ers defense, the way, like, there is no possible way to explain how good the Bengals defense is against top teams in the league over the past
Hmm.
2 years. It's unreal the success that they've had. And that's the thing. Like, if you sit down and you look at, the 49ers defense, you go, who's good on their team? You got Fred Warner, you got Nick Bosa, you got guys that are elite that stand out right away. If you said who's elite on the Bengals defense, like there's not many people that I would right out
You can
say
name
they're
three.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, but he was able to take that defense. He was able to, God bless him, take Eli Apple. That man is
Don't
a
start.
joke.
Don't
Like I
start. Don't start with Eli Apple, man.
dude, the
That
fact
dude is
that
terrible.
he causes so much stress and it's hilarious.
He causes stress because he can't shut his mouth. The dude takes it to Twitter every 15 seconds, man.
Every accomplishment the Bengals defense has, he feels like it's because of him.
Yeah,
um,
Trey Henderson can have 5+ sacks in a game. Jesse Bates can have 3 interceptions. And be like, it was because of me that they didn't throw my side. Like, bro, come on.
but I think it's amazing that he was able to take that defense, and of course you do have good pieces. You have Jesse Bates, you have Trey Hendrickson, and you have some guys that really stepped up this year on that team. But I feel like it's now if he was on this list, would you consider
Yes,
him as a winner
I'll,
for
I'll,
it? Yeah,
I'll take him 100%.
yeah.
100%, I'll take him because he led a good defense. Tackling was good, secondary was good, front seven was good, and the way, for example, I'm just gonna sum up their season in one game. They held Josh Allen, one of the best Bills offenses we've seen in a very long time, to close to nothing. So,
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, we are going to talk a little bit now about some of the head coaching changes that have happened already, and then we'll delve into Tom Brady. No more Tom Brady, thank God.
what's wrong with
Um,
you?
hey, the whole NFL fan base is happy that Tom Brady's gone. We're sad, but it's over.
What? I'm not. I'm not excited.
All
You know, it's gonna
right.
suck next year when I don't see Tommy Boy play.
Oh boy. Head coaching changes. So I think most probably the biggest one of these to talk about is that Sean Payton. Now, I just have a question. When is the last time a team traded for a coach? Like, because I think what was it? The Saints got a first round pick for him.
Hmm. I don't
um,
remember the first last time because that used to happen a lot actually. You know,
yeah,
a lot of trades, but now you just grab coaches when they get fired. But
but
the only reason they
so
traded for him is because he was still on contract with the Saints. That's the like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he left the Saints. Like, he was still under contract. So if he wasn't, yeah, whatever.
yeah. My question is, how do you think? Now, obviously, we know Sean Payton, we know his success with the Saints, and kind of with Drew Brees and all them. Do you think that he'll be able to right the Broncos offensively? We know they're good defensively, but do you think he'll be able to come in there and turn that Broncos offense into what everybody was hoping it would be in the beginning?
No, because I think that Broncos offense is going to be terrible for years to come. And it's not the coaching problem. Like, yeah, Nathaniel Hackett last year was a terrible head coach, terrible head coach. But there's a lot of coaches out there that was worse than him, and they still got jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to how well Russell Wilson is going to play. You can coach Russell Wilson until you're blue in the face. You can tell him that, you're making poor reads. You're not executing this offensive play properly. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. But it's ultimately going to come down to Russell Wilson. And, granted that Sean Payton is probably one of the best offensive minded coaches of all time. It's going to come down to how well Russell Wilson puts the balls in the receiver's hands.
That it will. That it will.
You are a
Yeah,
child. You
sure.
are
I'll
a
leave it at that.
child.
You laughed first. Okay.
No, I didn't.
We'll leave it
I,
there.
I said it, and then next thing I know, I heard,
That'll be
you're five.
no, but see, that's a great headline for the
Balls in.
Broncos press.
And we're
All
not
Sean
saying it
Payton
again.
needs to do.
We're not saying it again. Next coach, D'Amico Ryan.
Okay. D'Amico Ryan's going to the Houston Texans. I don't understand this. I don't, because like, obviously Duba's fantastic with the 49ers, but he's a defensive minded head coach now going into a team that has an offense that can't do anything. Now, granted, the Texans are in the nice position in the draft coming up where they can potentially pull some strings if they want to, however they want to do it, where they could potentially get a quarterback. They could also get a receiver. And I feel like, poor Lovie Smith, the man cannot catch a break. But he also chooses to go to the teams in the NFL that are the worst. But I feel like, do you think this is a year one turnaround for the Texans if they do draft correctly, or do you think it's one of those things where it's going to be like a oh my god, what's the dude's name from the Lions? What's his
Dan
name?
Campbell.
Dan Campbell. Do you think it's going to be a Dan Campbell situation where they say, okay, we're going to give you a couple years to get the team back where, to at least, competitive? How do you think that's going to go?
Well, first things first, didn't they give him like a 7-year deal or something, or a 6-year contract or something, like a really fat contract?
I
Did I see
believe
that
so.
right?
Yeah, 6-year deal. Yeah.
There you go. So they're locked in on this dude. So is Brian Flores still the defensive coordinator for the Texans?
That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head.
Because defensively, the Texans played, they had bad games, but they had decent. They just need some molding. That's all it is. And with D'Amico Ryan's coming, I think I like it. I like it. They, like you said, as long as they go into the draft and the offseason and get a quarterback, get a receiver, beef up the offensive line, get some help, whatever. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, Brian Flores is the linebackers coach for the Steelers.
Oh, that's what. Because I was, what I was thinking. I was like, wow, one black coach going to meet another black coach, but then I'm thinking it's Tomlin and Flores. That's what it was.
Yeah, I don't know who was the defensive coordinator. I think, did they even have one? I don't think they
No,
had. I think
they
it was
didn't.
Lovie Smith. Yeah.
Lovie.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think it's a good hire, but then again, how many times have we seen masterful coordinators go on to be terrible head coaches? So best.
Who I want to see become a head coach again? Dan Quinn. I love that guy.
Yeah, well, I read something about that. He's the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys,
Cowboys.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, and he's chosen to stay there for the past 2 years.
I
Which
mean, it's
I
good for
mean,
him because it works. The only reason
yeah.
I love him is because he gave Tom Brady another ring. I love that man.
Okay, all right. Can we just knock the bias off right now?
Nah, but realistically, he's a really good coach, defensive minded coach, and if he becomes a head coach somewhere, I think. I mean, depending on where he goes, like if he goes to the
Mhm.
Jets, I feel like he can make a Jets good team.
Yeah. Well, moving on to another bad team this past year, the Carolina Panthers, who have brought on Frank Reich. Now, I thought this was
Stupid.
interesting. Yeah, I don't understand it, mainly because, and I forget his name too. The names are just going out my head. But the guy who took over as head coach when they fired Matt Rule midseason, and kind of the turnaround that he did with the Panthers over that period where they were actually winning games, they looked good. It was surprising that they decided to go with Frank Reich. Now, obviously, we know that he's a good coach.
Is he
Um,
though?
I mean, well, he was, and I don't
At
know if
one
you could
point,
blame. Yeah, but could you blame the Colts' performances on him
yes.
or Matt Ryan?
I mean, Matt Ryan
Because
still threw a bunch of touchdowns, just not a lot.
Yeah, because I feel like the Frank Reich situation is the same situation with Nathaniel Hackett,
Yeah.
where I believe that in the Broncos situation, Russell Wilson was the reason why they lost so many of those games. And
Hmm.
that's not something where I feel like it's a coach problem, it's a player problem. Um, but this signing still seems weird to me. I don't know if it's something that's going to be like a one and done type thing. If the Panthers, because the Panthers are still, they have a long way to go. You don't
Yeah.
have a quarterback yet that you can really, for sure say is your guy. You have some good pieces, but this team needs a lot of work. And unfortunately, they're not like the Texans where they're in the position to have a bunch of good picks, get new players and all this kind of stuff. So it's not something I'm really looking forward to.
I agree. End
um,
of discussion.
yeah. Cliff Kingsbury obviously was fired by the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals. They have not picked someone yet to do that. I pray for the man they do pick to be that coach.
Yeah, because that whoever comes into the Arizona Cardinals is going to you're coming into a mess. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Because you're not going to have Kyler Murray for. He's not going to be ready week one after his
yeah,
surgery. He's not going to be ready week one. You don't know how long he's going to be out for, but
yeah. And the only other team that obviously fired their coach was the Indianapolis Colts, firing Frank Reich, and they have not yet picked one. And their situation, I feel like, is the same. They need to, the Colts, man, and obviously we'll be doing some draft talk coming up in the future here. The Colts need a quarterback. Like where you need to stop going out there and getting 50-year-old veterans who are washed up. You need to go out there. You need to get a quarterback as a rookie. That's a good quarterback, and you just need to do something good with them.
whoa, 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 whoa! Did you say that was the last bit of coach news?
That's all I have here.
What about Bill O'Brien, my man? Bill O'Brien is the new offensive coordinator for the New
That
England Patriots.
we're talking about head coaches,
It's still a major coach
and it's
movement.
Bill O'Brien. You're telling me you want? Well, all right. So Bill O'Brien does have connections with the Patriots in the past, but you're really telling me that it makes you happy that the man who traded DeAndre Hopkins away from the Texans for pennies, you're happy that he's there?
I mean, he's not going to be. He's not running the show. But think about it
He's
when
not about to
like
get near it.
he's not going to be doing any sign-offs, but at the end of the day, the coach, the man went like 28-6-1 or whatever when he was the Texans head coach. Took him to two playoff berths. You know, he was good in Alabama. Come on, man. Come on.
We
Don't
all
shut
see the
down
thing,
Bill O'Brien like that.
but the thing is that the Patriots are only big enough for one Bill. Like, let's be real. And it doesn't. Well, no, you tell me if you agree with me, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't matter who the offensive defensive coordinator is on that team because it's
Yeah,
Bill
everything runs
Belichick's.
to Bill. Everything
Yeah.
runs to Bill.
So
But
it's
look what
kind of
happened
like,
last year without a offensive coordinator. The offense was terrible. Bill Belichick is a defensive minded coach, and he ran a good defense last year, but the offense couldn't score. Now, you know, I mean, I don't know if the offense is going to score with Bill O'Brien, but there's potential.
oh my god, it's going to be interesting to see definitely how. I mean, the Patriots are a team that I'm closely looking at to see how that whole Mac Jones thing goes down, and if they really put their foot down that he's going to be the guy for the next couple of years, or if
I
they're
hope
going to
so.
try to get rid of him. Hey man, I mean, Bailey Zapp's not bad.
He's not, but at the end of the day, man, Patriots needs receivers. That's what they need to do. They need skill positions.
And they're expected to draft a cornerback to make up
Yep.
for Trent McDuffie in last year's draft.
But hey, Hopkins is still DeAndre Hopkins. He does not want to play with them anymore. So Bill can call him up and be like, "Yo, I'll give you a third and a fourth."
Listen to me. Do you think DeAndre Hopkins is going to come back on a team with Bill O'Brien? He
Not his
probably would
choice.
murder that man.
Not his choice. Not his choice. He's gonna get that notification from his agent, and be like, "Yeah, you're going to Boston, bro."
Okay. Well, you know what? He might go to the Packers first. So we'll do free agent talk and all this crazy talk. Like I said, now I'm in a position where I can get up and walk away when you say something like that.
Yeah.
All right. As the final note here, obviously, Tom Brady, everybody believes it's for real this time because he posted a video where he almost broke into tears about he's retiring. So, obviously, greatest quarterback to ever play the game. It's something where I feel like he was in the league too long. When you're in the league too long, everybody hates you when you're so good. And the one good thing that I'm happy about, because this is kind of like an end of an era type deal, right? I think Aaron Rodgers is the only one really left from the early 2000s that is still playing at a high level.
Right.
The crazy part about it to me is that, when they post those graphics where it's like all the quarterbacks that are going to be the next great guys, it's all in the AFC. Like the NFC just does not have any love in that category. We have Justin Fields. That's what the NFC has.
Yeah, even with Justin Fields, you don't really have much. I mean,
yeah.
Let's be real.
I mean, but obviously, again, and you love him, obviously, as a Patriots fan. But yeah, I mean, greatest quarterback of all time, holds more records than any person possibly could and probably ever will. Do you have any words?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Dude is the greatest quarterback of all time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. What is cool though, this man has had 3 different careers in the 22, 23 years he's been playing. His 20s, his 30s, and his 40s. And each one of those years, there's been starters who's been out there for 5+ years that hasn't even touched the accolades Tom has. So with Tom Brady, like I said, he is the greatest of all time. And there's records that he's solidified that no one will ever touch, ever. And that's the passing record, the touchdown record, going to 10 plus Super Bowls, winning 7. No, there's not a single player ever that's going to win 7 Super Bowls.
If you could pick one player to potentially break those records down the road, who would you pick?
Got to go Patrick Mahomes.
That's
if
what
it's
I would say.
Passing record, I feel like he can break it. I mean, 89,000 is a lot. Touchdown records, maybe. If every year Patrick Mahomes is throwing 50 plus. So, but again, no one is ever going to touch the seven Super Bowls.
You don't think Patrick Mahomes could do that either?
No, I don't think
really?
he can.
Well,
you have to think about it. You got to think about the longevity for quarterbacks nowadays is not that high. You know what I mean? There's not. I don't know if there's going to be another player in the NFL that's going to play 22 to 23 seasons.
Well, who knows? Because Brock Purdy might, but 20 years from now, we might be sitting here saying, man, Brock Purdy surpassed Tom Brady.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Oh, man. All right, let's wrap this up. So, again, we're going to try to get these videos out once per week now and start adding in some other content, hopefully. Again, there's probably going to be some quirks and some different things going forward for a little bit until we get everything completely figured out. But yeah, follow us on social media at Facing the Elite, and we will be back soon.
All right, guys. Enjoy. Just wave.